to Season 2, Episode 3. I'm Merilyn Nunno.
And I'm Adriano Fiacconi, and this is Real Estate Wealth and Overall Health.
Yes, we have some very important topics that we're going to discuss today. And let's get right into it. I think for starters, we should talk about, we are in February, almost end of February, and a lot of people are curious, how has the market been performing so far in 2025?
Yeah, so I guess that's my question to answer. So I've been finding it's kind of interesting. January and February, our team has been really successful. I feel like on the buy side, there's a lot of opportunity with buyers. On the sell side, so if you are a seller, it really depends on the segment and the type of house you have. We have had properties sell in multiple offers, and that strategy has worked. And there's been other things on the condo side where it's, you have to be more traditional and it's taking a little more time. So I feel like there is a balance there, but there is some, certain areas, again, as we always talk, with lack of inventory or certain specific houses, there are buyers and multiple offers still out there. That's kind of what I'm seeing. How about yourself?
Yes. So we've actually had an incredible start to 2025. A lot of people think that January is a month where it's like, very quiet and, we're kind of hibernating and there's not much going on, when in fact, January of 2024 was a very big month for us, as well as this year so far has been, we've done probably about 7 transactions. So I think it's always part of the New Year's resolution too, is one of those things when, come December, the holidays, people are in that kind of like getting away, and here in Canada it's very cold, a lot of snow we've had, so a lot of people come January, they're like, okay, let's get to those resolutions and let's get through that to-do list. So if that means we're looking to get an investment property, or let's get our property on the market so that we can get into that area that we want to be in by summertime, but we need to sell before we can buy. I think a lot of people, they come January, it's like, okay, the clock is ticking, let's move our plans forward, and what are the next steps in order for us to get to where we want to be. So yes, it has been very busy, and there's been a lot of kind of news and a lot of things that are sort of influencing what may happen in the upcoming months, which I think leads us into our next topic.
Okay, so so we're going to talk about tariffs. I mean, just going back quickly to what you were saying too. Again, we always talk about this. It comes down to inventory. So if you're a seller, again, it's difficult. There's no blanket statement. The property that we sold. The property that we sold, where we had, I think, 5 offers on the property, I believe.
Yes.
That property was very unique because it was a detached home. Even though it needed a lot of work, there wasn't much inventory in that area, and that's why we got 5 offers. Again, if you're in a subdivision and there's a bunch of listings that's very similar to yours, that strategy won't work unless you have something, it's been updated. There's something very, very unique. So we always keep that in mind, when you're looking at inventory and months of inventory. So topic number 2, getting into that. So we're going to talk a little bit about, I guess, the tariffs, the possible tariffs that may come into play. And I guess the bigger question, what people want to know is how could that affect the real estate market, I guess, in Canada, or even in Toronto per se, or the GTA? Like, what are your thoughts on that? And just let's maybe talk about that a little bit.
So that's a great question, and I've had many different phone conversations with existing clients and potential clients. Everyone's kind of wondering and in the same boat here. My personal thoughts, I think there's a couple key factors that we have to consider. One, there's already a higher construction cost. I mean, obviously during COVID it kind of went up, and people are saying that it's slightly come down again. But there's certainly, with the implementations being stated, that there may be, might be affecting lumber and steel, then definitely there's going to be an increased construction cost, which means for new build homes that the cost will go up. Obviously, builders want to make some profit as well, right? Nobody wants to go through a big development and not have it cut into their profits as well. So that'll mean the price will definitely increase, as well as also, like, for example, Adriano and I, with a colleague, we actually also have a project on the go right now. And we're seeing that for a small little 8x8 add-on was like $30,000, no masonry, no brickwork, just like, siding. And that was pretty expensive without any finishes, $30,000. So we're already seeing that, I mean, just the cost of material, that's definitely going to be, labor is one thing, but the cost of material, if those tariffs do come into play, then that will be, an extra cost for consumers. So that's definitely going to affect our affordability for sure. And also, I think that there's just a lot of what I'm hearing and the response that I'm getting, and even myself, there's some economic uncertainty with we have elections that are coming up as well at the end of the month. So I think any time around that, we sort of get a little bit of a reaction where people are a little bit standoffish, or they just want to kind of sit on the sidelines and wait and give a little bit of time. And also, we're also leading up to a spring market as well. So that's also a little bit of its timing. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we got hit with 2 of our biggest snowstorms recently as well. So we also had some listings that we were going to launch, and then we got a call after photography where our sellers were like, Merilyn, there's nowhere to park on the street. There's like snow banks like 5 feet, literally 5 feet high. So let's just wait and let some of the snow clear, which they're saying is going to take up to 3 weeks for the city to, put into effect to help with the snow removal. So I think that there's always those different factors, right? Like weather, the uncertainty and just this change of what's going to happen with the elections coming up, as well as just with what's going to happen with, the tariffs also it could potentially affect inflation as well. And that might even affect, interest rates as well, depending what happens there. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. So some of that, I agree with all of that. Usually when I look at something like tariffs, I kind of look at it more of a macro level, so how it might affect things. And, with 60% of mortgages coming up for renewal this year, we were already getting indications from a lot of our lenders that we've worked with that they thought rates would have to come down in order for people renewing to not have such a big jump in monthly payments. With the tariffs coming in, usually tariffs tend to be recessionary, meaning there might be layoffs and stuff like that. So I feel that if that does happen, people do get nervous, and I feel the government will probably keep rates steady, like the variable side, or maybe have to bring them down if they feel that people are going to be if the country is going into a recession. That's good and bad, because for people who need that relief, it's great. But for people who, let's say this is going almost back to COVID, where there were people that were out of work, and then there were people that were, making more money than ever, making consistent jobs and saving a lot of money. And the people with money, I feel like, can benefit with these lower interest rates. So it's going to be interesting. It's a tough one to really figure out where we might go. But I do feel, again, and I will say this, like if you're looking to buy right now, I feel like there's an opportunity to purchase. I was going to say this last time, but if you could go back 2 or 3 years and talk to a buyer and say, I wish there was a time where I wasn't competing with 10 offers on every house. Now's the time. Yeah. So if you are looking to do something and the numbers work, these are great times to purchase, I feel.
Yes. Yeah, so, for sure. So
with that being said, I guess our next kind of topic, and this is more of like a teaching part of the
educational section.
And this is something that comes about because like we deal with a lot of buyers and sellers, and it's always funny. You go into a listing appointment and a buyer or a seller will be like, sure, where do I sign the listing documents? But then you go into talk with a buyer.
That's right.
And they're like, hey, yes, we need to go under agency, sign the buyer agreement. And there's resistance. And what we wanted to talk about right now is maybe the positive reasons for signing a buyer agency agreement, as a buyer.
And just to add to that, we'll throw a little humor into this. When I first started my career, we're talking almost 20 years ago. Gosh, I think I just gave away my age.
You started at 10 years old.
I remember when I had to get this signed, and back in the day, there was no electronic signing. It was all by pen in person on like, you know, you'd be on like the kitchen counter signing the agreement before you put the buyer agreement, before you put in an offer. I remember I used to actually sweat before I would have to have that conversation, you know, I'm thinking those conversations you have with yourself, you know, those negative conversations, like maybe they're going to reject me, maybe they're going to give me all these objections as to why they don't want to sign, or maybe they're going to just, you know, take the file and say they want to think about it and get back to me. And I remember I always used to have this, you know, fear, and it was, that was you know, it was always like, I'd have to, you know, kind of psych myself up to get to that point and have go in with confidence. And, you know, usually when you explain something properly and you actually take the time to go through the contract and explain, you know, what it's, how you get paid and what the contract really is stating in the contract. I think that once they understand it and you break it down to them and you take the time and make them feel like you're not rushing them and you're there to answer questions, I think that once they feel comfortable with that, then it's easy to actually get them to sign. But I just had to throw that in, that in the beginning, I remember I used to like any reason not to bring it up. Like, you know, they would be like, oh, I really like this one. Yeah, I think we might put an offer. Okay, great. Now I can bring it up. Because it used to be like, for myself, starting out in the business, that was like, I would be worried about it. So that was always kind of something that I kind of struggled with. But now it's just, you know, easy breezy, and it's like kind of, you know, robotic almost. So I guess, let me ask you, what do you, if I am the buyer, I'm asking you, okay, great, Adriano, you've taken me out, you know, 2-3 times now, and I understand you emailed me this contract, and I get it, you want me to sign, so why should I sign this contract with you?
Okay, so, I mean, I can answer that directly, but I think, you know, if we look at it, there's a few important things that signing a buyer agency does for the buyer. So the first thing that I think buyers don't recognize is they feel like we're getting agents, realtors are getting them to sign this contract to keep them as clients. And what they should realize is that that has been brought to us by the governing body of real estate. That buyer agency has been put into place to protect the buyer. And that's what they don't understand. By us having a contract or an agreement signed with them, we then have fiduciary duties. We have all these other things that we are expected to do, not to tell certain things, to point out certain defects in houses, to do all these kinds of things that if you're not under contract, an agent can just go, no, buy the house, it's good, and they don't owe you anything. They don't. You're basically representing yourself. So that's one of the things, you know, one of the main reasons of signing a buyer agency agreement. And part of it too is just, you know, right now I feel like 20 years ago when I started and when you started, it was a little bit different because there wasn't much online technology. So someone would come to the realtor and say, hey, listen, show me around. You have a conversation with them. They trust you and you go around. Now with all these websites and stuff, you sign up and some people, we talk to them and they're getting, you know, 10 different listings from 10 different agents. And you know, it's like going to 10 different doctors and trying to, one guy's going to tell you your knee's bad and you know, you're not getting a consistent reading. And I feel what's very important about that is that what you have to remember is 99% of every listing is going to be on the TREB board. So whether you're with 1 or 10 agents, you're probably going to be getting the exact same listings unless your zones are different. From 10 agents. So you're bombarding yourself, you're overstimulating yourself, and it's very hard to focus. So I feel like choosing one agent that you trust, that you can have open conversations with, that understands what you want as they take you out. They can see what you like and can then suggest properties and make sure your financing is in order. That's the beauty of working with one person, and I would suggest that. I don't know how you feel about that, but like that's, you know, I feel like I have the easiest transactions when I sit people down, we have a good relationship, and we have a plan to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. Something kind of interesting happened just yesterday. I got this text on my phone and it said, hi Merilyn, your home evaluation is being prepared for you and we will revise it. And then they asked me some questions like how many bedrooms, how many baths, and I thought, someone must have used my information and signed up for an auto evaluation because I'm certainly not selling, and we both know that if I was, it would be
Yeah.
our side on my front lawn. Having said that, I think the other thing is as well, like just getting kind of like that, it's almost spammy where you're getting so many different people sending you different things, and maybe it's not even what I'm looking for. So it's kind of just not relevant. And then it ends up just kind of, getting, down the...
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like a lot of realtors, even if they get you on a drip, they may not follow up with you. And what happens is as rates move and change, as they go down, your price point might go up, but you're still getting searches for lower properties or higher properties, and you need lower. So it gets a little bit messy. So if you do feel like you're in that situation now, I'd say have an honest conversation with one realtor, pick that person and develop a relationship with that person and move forward. And you will really help your buying process if you're serious about that at that time.
That, and I'm also going to chime in and say, for me, once I know that someone's signed and they're committed, I am very laser focused and I'm committed as well. Even just today, we just did a deal yesterday, and that specific file, they had to have spousal consent. We've done multiple transactions with this family, them and their family. And, I just called today just to make sure that she was still comfortable, because it's conditional. And sometimes I know that buyers or sellers, they can have, buyer's remorse, or sellers. I just wanted to check in with her and see how she was doing. And she really appreciated that. So I feel that when you also give a commitment, it's like anything. When I go into, let's say I'm looking to buy a car, and I know that he's, he sent me a lot of information. He's spent time with me. And, he's called me just to check in and see how, I'm liking my new purchase. I feel when there's little things like that, it's just, it's a really nice touch, and it just shows that, I want to also be able to provide full service, like you were saying, with signing. That just allows for us to be able to, build on that relationship, rather than, let's be real, sometimes there are people that, and it's happened for us as well, where they were looking with someone else, and then they said, no, we weren't signed, but, we want to come with you because you listed the property. And then we feel like, oh, wow, well, you had someone else. Like, are you sure? We don't want to step on anyone's toes. No, I didn't sign. I'm coming with you. Yeah. So, like, nobody wants to work for free. Everybody signing the contract, essentially, that's another important, point, that is also how we do get paid as well. So
I think at the end of the day, like the way you and I work and our team works is that whether you're a buyer or seller, we're there to help you throughout the changes in someone's life. And I feel like once I get to know a client, especially when you're doing, repeat business with someone, what their, more or less what their finances are, what their goals are, where they want to be. And you can really suggest even opportunities. Like if people have equities in properties, but they want to buy something else, you can suggest, hey, what about a rental property? Or how about, I've said this a lot to people, like pay, if you can afford a little bit more, get into a bigger house. Because if you come to me in 7 years from now, because you're like, oh, I should have bought the 4-bedroom instead of the 3-bedroom, you got to remember there's going to be land transfer tax, realtor fees, lawyers fees, moving costs, and these are conversations that you probably won't just get from anybody who's just showing you properties, takes you out and opens a door for you, right? So you got to develop that relationship with the person that you want and that you trust. So I think that's kind of, there's a lot of things there, but
for sure,
it's protecting them. It's protecting them at all different stages.
It's protecting both sides, and also illustrating in writing, what the relationship between the two parties are. And of course, for whatever reason, if it does end, there's a date there as well, which is also which is also important as well.
I that's the last thing, maybe before we move on. Don't get scared of the date. Like some people might want to sign you for 6 months or a year, and you're like, oh my God, I got to be tied in. The question you have to ask is, if you're looking in an area maybe where not many houses come up, it's like you're very particular and need certain things, it might take you a year. They're not trying to rush you into the first thing that might come in front of you. So you have to have that conversation. There might be a time where you're upsizing and it's like, I need to buy in 2 or 3 months. Great. But some people are more specific, and it's just to have that relationship and that communication over a longer period of time. And if you're truly unsatisfied, most agents aren't going to want to work with someone who doesn't want to go with showing. So, there's ways to get out of a contract. We've never had to do that, but I'm sure there is. So So I guess those are the main things with the buyer agency and what you should
Yes.
expect and what you should be looking for as a buyer. So
For sure.
I guess now we're going into our
Yes.
6 and 60
Yeah.
segment where
That's
we just,
right.
I don't know the question she's asking me.
No,
She
I
doesn't
have
know
them
the
on my
questions,
phone here.
and it's got to be quick. Do you want to be first?
Sure.
Okay, so hold on. So once the first question
Okay.
gets read,
Question number 1.
okay.
If you could live in any neighborhood across the GTA, what neighborhood would it be and why?
I would have to say Kingsway, or where I am right now, Longbridge, Alderwood, because we have the lake, we have transportation, we have access to highways, airports, and malls.
Oh, wow. Pushing your own area. I love
Pushing
it.
my own area. I love it.
Okay. What's your go-to advice for first-time home buyers?
First-time home buyers, find an agent that can work with you, get pre-approved first, so you know what you're purchasing, and get out there and see houses.
Okay, great. Adriano, for those that know you, we know you love music. You have a very special relationship with music. If you had a theme song, which song would it be?
Be, I don't know, Even Flow by Pearl Jam. I don't know. I just the first thing that came to mind.
Classic rock, of course. And if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self starting out in real estate, what would that be? Follow
up is the most important. People get opportunities all over the place, and it's the follow-up, because these people are looking to buy, and the consistency. Those are the two big things.
Okay, and let's make this last one really fun. During a showing, could be in the house, or what was the craziest thing you've ever encountered during one of your showings?
Once I went into a house and I went into the master bedroom and I opened the closet because it was like a big, and there was someone in there in a desk, kid working on the computer.
In a closet.
Yeah,
They were literally in the closet.
It was like her office. So I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Nice algebra question.
Oh, my goodness.
You got the right answer. So that was one of the ones that stood out, besides like some bad renovations and things like that. So so here's my 6 and 60 for you.
All right.
So mine aren't as but quickly. So will interest rates be higher or lower than now in the fall?
I think we're going to have a hold. I think we're going to have a rate hold.
Okay, so going to be neutral?
That's what I think. I think they're just going to hold for now.
Okay.
Depending on what happens with the economy come the new, again, as we discussed earlier, with what could potentially come with tariffs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather be a buyer or a seller right now in today's market?
Ooh, that's a good question. I always like the buying process because it's exciting, and I find the selling process just keeping your house organized and tidy and clean, because all my initials start, like blaring off, OCD, ADD, all the initials that I have. So I'd have to say selling is stressful. I think that buying is like exciting to look at new properties and see, what's next for the next chapters.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is one thing every seller should be aware of before selling?
I think, like you mentioned earlier, just all the disposal costs associated, like you mentioned, things like movers, a lawyer, if I'm buying land, transfer tax, disposal fees of realtors, really looking as a seller what I might net, right? Because sometimes what we hope to get and what we're actually going to get and settle for the gap might be quite large.
Okay. Should you take a variable or a fixed mortgage rate right now? What do you think?
Well, right now, I would actually say I would go with variable and ride it out, because I do foresee that rates could possibly, flatline, and then we might come down a little bit more just to continue to stimulate, because, we need to constantly be, there has to be movement in the economy. So I would say go for the variable and ride it out.
Okay. When is the best time to list in the spring, do you think?
Well, more inventory is definitely coming to the market after March break. So I'd always want to be slightly just ahead of that. So I would almost say, like, if you were talking, March break is, let's say, middle of March, then I'd probably want to launch right before that. So I had a head start, because come more inventory means that there's going to be more competition.
Okay, and last one. What is one must you would suggest to a seller that they should do before listing that would bring them the most return on their money? So
I'm going to say a quick paint, like definitely when you have, kids, traffic through the property, pets, all those little marks and dings, like a really deep clean and a really good paint can do wonders for a property. And then of course there are other things like staging and pricing it strategically. But I would say definitely the first one would be like a deep clean and paint.
okay, awesome. That's great. I would have suggested the same thing too, because I feel like, especially if there's a room where they have it's a darker color, maybe a color that's outdated. Just even painting a house a neutral color throughout will bring back, that's the best way to bring back the most amount of money, I've always been taught.
And we've seen some really bright ones where they're like bright orange and dark green. So definitely, I think neutralizing like a paint color makes a big difference.
Awesome.
For sure.
That's great. So I guess we're getting close to the end of our podcast for this episode. Okay. And just have some final thoughts, I guess. So maybe some of the things we had a snowstorm. So how did you keep yourself busy? What kind of exercising and health related stuff did you do while you were locked in?
Well, we actually had a skating event on Sunday, and we actually had a really good time. We had a few people come out, although it was a snowstorm, and we got some, we had to support local. So we got some Tim Hortons, and it was, we made the best of it. It was an outdoor skate, and that was fun. I think just kind of staying in, as the saying, Netflix and chill. And recently I got back into gaming, so I love it. It brings me back over, 30 years ago to my childhood playing like Nintendo. So
Mario 3?
Yeah, Super Mario.
all the warp zones, skip all the sand levels.
Getting the egg and the Yoshi, and oh God, I love it. That's what I've been doing lately, and reading, just to sort of, kind of distract myself, because sometimes I find like my mind is racing, like with what's on the to-do list, and always, you and I were always thinking back on like our deals and thinking, could we have got a little more, or did we make the right, did we guide them, and hopefully our clients are happy and comfortable. So
I think we did a good job. I found this past, with all the snow that we got, I felt like that felt more like Christmas, because with the long weekend and stuff, I felt like that was more of a Christmas than at Christmas. It was just everyone was stuck inside. I had to shovel my driveway 4 times in a day, so that was my exercise. Trying to touch my toes after that with a stiff back. But it's been great. Everyone is healthy. I feel like we have a really, really good. Our team's off to a great start this year. I feel like we're gonna have an amazing spring and into the summer. I'm excited.
And we just had a really beautiful award ceremony a few weeks ago.
So we did. We got a lot of individual awards for our agents, and a lot of personal achievements, and some other philanthropy stuff that we do. So that's fantastic. And I feel like everything is 2025 is going to be a fantastic year for us.
Yes. So Adriano, before we end off here, I get asked this quite a bit. I get asked this, probably it's one of the top 3 questions I get asked by the clients. What is it that you do on the health side with stress and to, kind of unplug from real estate? Like, what is it that you do that helps you?
I'm just kind of getting. So I used to play hockey a lot. Now it's tough to get out there as much just during the day. But I find that that's good, because it takes your mind right off of things. And I've been starting to get into stuff in the mornings where I do like some breath work. I try to go to the gym. It's a good way to start the day. Everyone always says, I read a book, 5 a.m. Club, and in it the guy was talking about everybody. I think it was in this book or maybe another one, but they were talking about everyone when they wake up in the morning, they prepare themselves for the day or for work by putting on makeup and clothes and shoes and looking good, but they don't prepare themselves on the mental side. They just get up and go. And so I've tried to
the rat race.
I've tried to take that into setting my my mindset and stuff in the morning, so that it can help get me through tough days, and on good days it just makes you feel better. So that's kind of what I do. How about yourself?
So I have a place locally that I love, and they have hot Pilates classes and HIIT classes. So it's 45 minutes of different types of cardio with weights. So there's some lifting, and also yin yoga. So that's what I've kind of been doing, that really I feel it's, you're always in a better mood after you leave and you've exercised and, sweat. And I think that's really important. The music's great. It's like a little family. The instructors are amazing. And it's so close to where I live, I can walk there. So I got the unlimited membership. So I can go like on Tuesdays, usually I have doubles, and on Thursdays as well. So I really enjoy that. It kind of is nice to have something to look forward to and challenge yourself, of course. And it's that, 45-minute break where you can just, kind of relax and put some time into your body. And
so that's awesome. No wonder you're so mellow all the time.
I've been told I'm rational, although sometimes I can feel myself where I feel like I'm getting kind of, worked up. But hey, I guess that's part of, human.
That's life. So it's good. So everyone's staying in health and healthy and trying to better themselves. So that's awesome. So that brings us to the end of our show. It was a great show. And I feel like, just remember, if you have any questions about what we said in this episode or any of our other episodes, or just questions in general about the real estate market, please feel free to reach out. There's no stupid question. There's no question that we find better than another. We're always here to help. And so with that being said,
until next time,
take care of your real estate,
your wealth, and your overall health.